After the first leg in San Pedro Sula, where Honduras convincingly beat Mexico 2-0 and made it 10 wins over La Selección Mexicana, the record against El Tri following a win, 0 wins, 1 draw, and now 9 losses after a 4-0 win in Toluca. Selección Mexicana qualified to the 2025 Gold Cup and going to the Nations League Semi-Finals. Then we'll be playing against Canada. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Charla Football. I'm your host, as always, Gerardo, alongside Tomas and Gabe from Clavado En Un Var. Thank you for hopping on the show, bro. I will make sure to put all your links down below. Clavado En Un Var, if you guys don't know, him and his team cover a variety of different teams and leagues in CONCACAF region, all of CONCACAF, and actually lives in Honduras. So this was a very special match for him, and hopefully we can get some good insight about the Honduras national team. But firstly, just want to say thank you guys for hopping on. Tomas, how you feeling? How you doing, bro?
I'm good, bro. Just disfrutando, disfrutando del day, disfrutando la victoria, and it is what it is, just right here.
And Gabe, how you feeling, bro?
Not surprised, honestly. Like it was written in the stars. It was very predictable. But yeah, even then, I think obviously there's a lot of negative, but there's some positive conclusions to take from this too.
Perfect. And on that note, I wanted to get a little bit of first reactions from both of you guys and from myself as well. I'll start off with you, Gabe. What are your first reactions, first feelings as soon as the match ended? What were you feeling?
I was not feeling disappointed at the players, to be honest. I was feeling disappointed at the coach because Reinaldo Rueda, first off, it was a very cowardly disposition towards this match. You already knew that. Well, obviously there was a difference in the stakes, but also in the fact that this match was going to be played at a very high altitude. So obviously, you can't be running around chasing the ball. You have to be a very intelligent with the ball. You have to be very measured. You have to read the opponent's movements very well. You have to know how to cut into that Mexican pressure. And I didn't see any of that. I just saw a team that parked the bus, that didn't have any arguments going forward. No arguments when it comes to build up play. No arguments when it comes to defending properly. Too many mistakes in the back. And it is what it is. I mean, the first half was already pretty bad. Even though we were only down 1-0, Mexico had, 5 or 6 very clear chances where Edric Mengíbar was an angel for Honduras. And, I mean, I already knew it from the first half that we were out. We were done. Then in the second half, Reinaldo Rueda pulled the biggest prank out of his bag, putting in Juan Carlos Obregón, who, all respect to him, but he's not a Selección Nacional player. And he only lasted for 25, 30 minutes. Like 10 minutes in, he was already asking for oxygen. That's how bad his physical form was. He didn't help out in defense. He didn't help out in attack. He didn't do anything interesting, any different. Luis Palma was taking out for him, and he didn't do anything that he was supposed to do or what Rueda might have imagined him doing. So unfortunately, we lost substitution there, and we also basically created a big hole on our left flank, which was essentially Mexico's right wing, and they took advantage of it. Jorge Sanchez, Gino Huerta, all the players that went through there, it was like a piece of cake for them. And in the end, it is what it is. I think that the 2-0 difference that happened in El Estadio Morazán is a reality between Mexico and Honduras? No. I believe that this is, because even though it is Mexico's worst generation, it's still good enough to beat a very mid-Honduras team. And also when you think about all the preparation, the infrastructure these players have access to, the leagues they play in, you might think Liga MX is on a downfall. Liga MX is still one of the best leagues in America, one of the best 15 leagues in the world. Most of our players are in Liga Nacional with not many aspirations of leaving. So, I mean, like I said, it was written in the stars. I was pretty sure that Mexico was going to make a comeback, although I thought it was maybe going to be a close 3-0 or maybe a 2-0 that gets taken to penalties. But no, it was much worse. And, yeah, I mean, Mexico, they did their job and they did it well.
Yeah, from a Mexican national team standpoint, I was worried a little bit going into this next match because, I mean, all Honduras needed was just one goal and they could hold off. They can essentially just sit back and hold on to that. But it was like a complete 180 what we saw in San Pedro Sula to what we saw today. But also same thing for Mexico. Tomas, what's your point of view? Because Mexico, from the first leg to the second leg, is just a completely different team, not just on the squad sheet, but just on what we saw on the field as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, to get a good response, we'd have to go, how the match ended. I feel like the fact that, well, let's go back to this. Before the match ended, 2 minutes prior to the match ending, you go through Twitter, you go through TikTok, everybody's saying, like what a bad team Mexico is. Like Mexicans saying this, like they're terrible, they're this or that. 2 minutes pass from that, a beer can hits Javier Aguirre, and the whole dialect changes. Everything changes. Everybody's now focused on a whole different topic, which I don't want to get into because Javier Aguirre said, he doesn't want anybody talking about it. He went through it, whatever. But the fact is that after that, there was kind of like a mental shift in the not only well, I can't speak for the players, but I know for the fans, that's for a fact. So maybe that was a big difference. Another thing is that he completely changes the lineup. He takes out Ochoa, puts in Malagón, he takes out Jorge Sanchez, starts with Huesca. Huesca's being a player playing in Europe, playing in a higher altitude than the average player. So maybe he went with him because of that. Also, another cold place because Toluca's pretty cold as well. It was about 30, 36, 35 degrees today. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a lot of things. He completely changes the lineup. That thing happens. That's motivation for the fans. And, I mean, that was the result.
Yeah, I think that was the most surprising thing. I didn't expect so many changes. First off, from Mexico for Mexico. When it comes to Honduras, there weren't really too many changes, were there, Gabe? Besides Luis Palma starting and maybe a one or two that I might be missing.
Yeah, the two main changes were basically the two players that changed the game in San Pedro Sula. They were brought in as starters. So Justin Arboleda played as number 9 instead of Jorge Benguche, who was the guy that started in San Pedro Sula. And then Luis Palma played on the left wing. Well, and there was also one strategic change, which was that Edwin Rodriguez, who usually plays as a number 8, he was deployed to the right wing because Rigoberto Rivas was injured. So I guess structure-wise, there weren't any changes, although, what you usually take to the drawing board is not what you actually get sometimes in football. And actually, Honduras looked like they were playing like an 8-1-1 because they only had like one striker and maybe one of the wingers, floating out there, trying to fight against the Mexican defense, obviously doing nothing, achieving nothing. And then you had like 8 guys, like no joke. If you find the snapshot of the game while Mexico was attacking, you would see like 8 Hondurans like close to the small area. So so it was insane, and it was bad tactics from Rueda. Like I'm very disappointed because I think he's an old fox. I think he's someone that's supposed to know better, and yet he really disappointed us. But it's also true what you guys are mentioning, that Mexico also made some good changes. I felt like Luis Chavez was one of the worst performers in San Pedro Sula. I think he's one of the few players that, people always say, you should go to Europe at all costs. And I'm like, you know what? You shouldn't go to any league, because I feel he has gotten worse in Russia. And I also feel like even Cesar Montes has had a little dip in Russia. I think that if Mexican players aim to go to Europe, they should aim, if they're young, they should go to development leagues. Russia's not one of them. And if they're 24, 25, then they should aspire at least to like a top 7 league, but not Russia.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But also, when I looked at the Honduras lineup, I was pretty worried because, starting Palma, a 4-2-3-1, I think, if that was the formation that you utilized on paper, I thought Honduras was going to go for, a quick goal. Un goal, y, close everything, close the midfield, nothing gets past. But, I mean, it didn't quite look like that.
That's what I was expecting too. But the problem is that Luis Palma is not exactly a quick, player, someone that you identify with as someone with pace. So when it comes to counter-attacking, you can't really count on him. He's more like a build-up type of player, intelligent passing, but you can't expect him to like beat his marker and then move into the area. That's not the type of player he is. So, and also Justin Arboleda, number 9, he's a great physical player. He can win a lot of balls, great aerial play, but he's not exactly a fast player. So the quickest players you had were probably your number 8s, and you don't want to risk sending your number 8s to attack, because what if they don't come back in time and they lose their marker, and then you have like a lot of opportunities for 2 versus 1s.
I just thought it would be more like playing off Arboleda to Luis Palma. Luis Palma being a natural goal scorer, it'd be something more like that. But I mean, looking into the game, once I saw Arboleda being quite physical with Cesar Montes, and the fact that Cesar Montes is around 6'4", 6'5", and Chiquete right next to him, he's not that short, he's like 6'3", so it's pretty difficult to have two taller players than you, you know, trying
Barring
to
you.
trying to control the ball out of the air.
Mhm.
It's quite
Yeah.
difficult.
I think the shift from the first leg to the second leg is really what I want to get into because I mean it was such a poor display from the Mexican national team that first leg where I was surprised. I mean, we saw it already happen 1 year ago, almost a year ago, or actually exactly a year ago, where we lost 2-0. And then the same thing happened. And then you see all the lineup where players are playing out of position, some players that probably don't even deserve to be in the starting 11. I think that was the most that was where there was the most question marks about Javier Aguirre, his tactics, and I mean, really his choices going into the first leg. And I think that's where Honduras definitely capitalized in that first leg. They took advantage of that. But then, yeah, the second leg happened, and all these changes just gave us so much of ability going forward. I mean, we saw Alexis Gutierrez coming in, Luis Romo, who I mean, 10 times a player than Luis Chavez right now. Who else? Alexis Vega. I mean, who else am I missing, Tomas?
So we can,
Chiquete, obviously playing left center back.
you get the fact that we played a natural left center back rather than doing that alternate of moving Montes to left center back. I mean, it showed. I mean, because in La Ida, Montes gives I mean, it's like a travesty of a ball just straight to the Honduran forwards,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
that's what happens when you don't have a natural lefty playing left center back because they try to clear with the right, and then that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, other than that, it was Malagon. Malagon was pretty key as well
Oh yeah.
because not he didn't save a lot. I'm not gonna say he saved a lot, but the fact that you have a young, experienced keeper, I feel like that gives you your defense more of a boost than having Ochoa and goal.
Yeah.
Whereas people didn't really trust him because I feel like I don't know if this would have happened, but I feel like that one shot would have been too fast for Ochoa. I feel like maybe that would have been a goal. Maybe I feel like Ochoa is a little bit too old. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, we saw
we
it in the
saw
first leg, though, his reaction
yeah.
time was just his dipped immensely. But I mean, having Malagon definitely I felt more secure. And when I heard the news that Malagon was going to start, I felt a little bit better. At least when it came to shot stopping, to the ability that Malagon has compared to Memo Ochoa. I mean, we know Memo Ochoa. He's an incredible goalkeeper. He's had an incredible trajectory in world football, but it's just not his time anymore. And I will keep repeating it that he should not be in the Mexican national team whatsoever. But that's besides the point. I think going into the second leg, well, firstly, from the first leg going into the second leg, like Tomas, like how you mentioned earlier in the pod, the beer can hitting Javier Aguirre. If there wasn't motivation already for the players to go to the second leg and kind of complete a miracle or complete the comeback, the beer can hitting Javier Aguirre and this whole personal issue definitely added a little bit to that, and it gave them more of a reason to go out there and get the win. And yeah, I mean, in the second leg, they just completely battered Honduras off of the park from the first minute. I mean, Edson Alvarez getting few shots on goal, Alexis Vega getting some shots on goal. When in the first like 10 minutes, Menjivar had like 3 or 4 key saves where really, I mean, it could have been 3-0 within the first 20-25 minutes.
It's just we really have to highlight Mankiva. I mean, he was he was a light in the darkness. No, a candle in the darkness for Honduras in that first half. I mean, it could have been so much worse in the first half. The game could have been wrapped up in the first half if it wasn't for Mankiva's performance.
That is very true.
So it's give him his respect as well.
Oh, yeah, I think Mejibar was one of the few solid players for Honduras today. Then also there's Edwin Rodriguez. I don't know if you guys remember, but right before Mexico scored the second goal, Honduras had pretty much their only very clear chance that Malagon controlled. But if that one would have gone in, then it would have changed the game entirely.
Definitely.
And it was a 3-versus-1, and I think the Mexican defense handled that situation pretty well. And also Malagon, I feel he gives like all respect to Ochoa, who's a legend of the Mexican game and one of the best goalkeepers in CONCACAF in the last 25 years. But I feel like right now the whole team feels safer with Malagon on goal.
Definitely.
So that's also something that was definitely a factor. And then going back to the motivation for this game, yeah, I think the whole can situation, it was stupid. Not from a sporting perspective, not like it did give Mexico wings today, I feel, but like mostly from like a human perspective, I don't think that sort of stuff should be happening in any stadium around the world. I will be honest. After the match, I was incredibly happy, but once I knew about that, I was severely disappointed and pissed off. And yeah, that's something terrible. Like regardless of the result today, whether it was motivation or not, I think it was just something incredibly stupid to do.
Yeah, definitely things that shouldn't be happening in football stadiums. I know Javier Aguirre try to play it off. He's like, oh, it's something that happens in football, but it's just it's not right, especially. I mean, going back to the sporting side, yeah, it did give Mexico a little bit of that fire, just give them a little something to play for, and yeah, they showed it all on the pitch today. And what I really liked too was that Cruz Azul was actually at the heart of this win, at least in the first half for sure. They had players like Huescas, they had Alexis Gutierrez, they had Romo, Charlie. A Cruz Azul team that in Liga MX they're dominant. They've displayed one of the best attacking. One of the best football in all of North America, if anything. So I think it was important that they were at the base of this convocatoria, at the base of this win against Honduras. And yeah, I mean, going into the game itself, Chiquete was a big highlight because overall, once the game started to pause and there was a little bit of sloppiness between like the 20th to like the 40th minute, right before Chiquete breaks the lines. It was him. It was him to kind of create space, create something out of nothing, and that kind of sparked everything for Mexico.
Yeah, I mean that Chiquete, an incredible player. I mean, we saw him develop really offensively under the Gago era at Chivas. He was able he created this. I don't know. I don't even know how to say it, but he developed this ability to pass the ball in profoundly,
Mm-hmm.
and to have key plays as well. I mean, I don't remember seeing Chiquete prior to the year that Gago was there doing that stuff. Yes, he would get in emergency occasions, would be like last 5 minutes, last 6 minutes into the box for a corner kick. But other than that, I mean, creating something going forward is really rare for any center back, really, and that's
Yeah, and I think it's a very necessary resource. It's a good alternative because in the current state of the game where everything has to be like 1-2 passes, having a player that can just break schemes, defensive schemes with a long ball, with a very targeted long ball, I think it can change matches.
Definitely. We saw that a few times with Chiquete. And then when he broke the line, it wasn't a long ball that broke the line, but it was just him. Everyone is expecting him to, pass the ball to Gallardo or pass it short to Charlie in the midfield. But he's like, nah, I got this. Breaks through everybody, puts a perfectly drilled ball to Raul Jimenez, who does what he has to do inside of the box. And yeah, I mean, that's where everything just completely changed. This whole environment within El Nemesio 10, Toluca, everything was vibrant. People were excited. And yeah, I mean, Honduras really couldn't hang on, and I think the Altura definitely had a big part because yeah, after the first half, Honduras just really couldn't keep up at all.
Yeah, you could tell by the 60th minute that the players they weren't running at the same rhythm anymore. They
Hmm.
can't keep up with the lack of oxygen that you have up there, and Mexican players are much better suited to that type of conditions. Like think about it, Mexico City when it comes to altitude, it's not that far from Toluca.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, you have Honduras where most of the players were born or play in coastal regions, so you definitely feel the difference. I
Hmm.
mean, what was it? Friday. It was Friday. Last Friday that they play, right?
Yeah, yeah,
They were playing pretty much at sea level. Like I think San Pedro Sula's altitude is like 8 meters above sea level, and now you're playing like at 2,700 meters. What is it, like 8,000 feet or somewhere around that? And that's a big shift. And yeah, the players couldn't handle it, but at the same time, I feel like it shouldn't be an excuse. At least tactically, you could have prepared better for this match.
for sure.
yeah. At least on who are you gonna start, what sub you're
Yeah,
gonna utilize.
most
I feel
definitely.
like Luis Palma playing in Celtic, although he's not getting the minutes that he was last season, just
Hmm.
being in a country that has a higher altitude, a colder region as well. It would have definitely been smarter to keep him on, bring him in the 50th minute, 45th minute, maybe. But I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yo, or even
Yeah,
Arboleda, keeping him in the bench and just starting with some pretty quick players who are probably going to get tired by the 50th minute, and then you have more strategic players, those that you know that maybe won't run as much, but they know how to position themselves pretty well. know how to find spaces. But no, I think we did everything the opposite way, and we had like the slow, smart players first. They got worn down, and then you bring in the quick players, and the quick players are gonna get tired pretty fast, especially
Yeah.
with how intense Mexico's pressure was. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Rueda did his homework. I admire him. I think he's an experienced coach and everything, but I think he's like the main culprit of this defeat, no doubt.
It's definitely, well, to comparing this to what was it, 8 months ago, the game, the last game when this same scenario happened,
Almost a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah, a
almost a
year
year
ago.
ago. So comparing it to that, I feel like, no disrespect to Honduras, not to the federation or anything, but I feel like they kind of went back in a sense that, I don't know, they just played a lot more offensively. Maybe the counterattacking was a lot better. I don't know. I know Choco Lozano was in that
Yeah.
year. I don't remember seeing him this game, but I mean, it looked kind of a retroactive eliminatoria compared to the last one.
Yeah, I think Choco Lozano was a big miss because he was that type of player that you wanted to include in the starting lineup and then maybe bring Arboleda in the second half. But then also you have to take into consideration that, okay, Rigoberto Rivas, who played on the right wing that match in the Azteca, he also wasn't available due to injury. And then Luis Palma was in a whole other level at that point in time. It was when he was playing Champions League, scoring against Atletico de Madrid, scoring against Feyenoord, being the top assist generator in the Scottish Premiership. So he was at his best back then. And now he's honestly just a sub in Celtic. So you can't expect him to do the same things now. So yeah, I guess you could say we have gone backwards. But who knows if maybe with all the players in tip-top shape and available, if things, I don't think they would have been different. I still think Mexico would have made it through, but we would have given a much better image. And I'm particularly concerned about image because I don't know about you guys, but I don't really give a damn about the Nations League or the Gold Cup. Like I think Honduras's focus should be to use these matches to build for the World Cup qualifiers, and Mexico
Exactly.
should use them to build for the World Cup. But then, like if we miss out on the Gold Cup, which I don't think will happen, I think we'll qualify. But is it the end of the world? No, I don't really care. What I want to do is what I want to see my team doing is qualifying to the World Cup. That's it.
Yeah. And obviously, you want to give off the best sensations possible. So a 4-0 defeat is not the way to do that from an Honduras perspective.
Mhm.
Now, for a Mexican perspective, I think we showed character. I mean, everything that we needed them to show on Friday. Finally, we saw it today, which was great to see. Um, Henry Martin getting a brace, which was impressive. I don't know when was the last time he scored a brace with the
Right.
Selección Mexicana, but him coming off the bench was key because he didn't even play in the first leg. He wasn't even considered at all to be in the bench at all. Alexis Vega was key. And overall, I just think that there's a lot more work to do. I mean, we're gonna have it tough moving forward to the semifinals, but at least we got that qualification to the Gold Cup. Means more competitive matches for us. But it's gonna be definitely difficult going to the semifinals playing against a team like Canada, who are also on fire. Um, what are you expecting from Honduras moving forward, Gabe?
Yeah. Even though I don't think it's the main priority, I think qualifying to Gold Cup is a must, mainly because of the FIFA ranking points. Those are
Mhm.
very useful when it comes to the third qualifying round for the World Cup, because then it will depend what group you land in. I know it's very likely that the top three ranked teams are going to be Panama, Jamaica, and Costa Rica. But if Honduras can be like maybe the fourth ranked and be on the second pot and maybe have some weaker rivals, I think that would be great for us.
Mm-hmm.
And also use the Gold Cup to finally develop a functional starting lineup and one that feels comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Because I think that's our main problem right now. Like these matches that are life or death, we seem to always squander opportunities to make big moves. And yeah, we need to learn to play under pressure. Unfortunately, playing against other Central American teams, you don't really gain that. It's when you play the Mexicos, the US, the Canadas of the region. That's when you actually grow. So we really need that. And hopefully, I think the image we showed at home should make us a somewhat fearful team for other Central American and Caribbean nations.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully that means that we can be strong and make as many points at home as possible, be intelligent away, and qualify for the World Cup. whether it's directly or via intercontinental playoffs. But I think that's the final goal. And well, the road to the US, Mexico, and Canada starts in September. So I'm very excited about that.
Well, hopefully we can see Honduras there. Mexico obviously already automatically qualified, but yeah, I mean, there's so much more work that needs to be done within both federations, both national teams.
I mean,
But
Mexico especially, because I mean, I feel like Mexico to host a World Cup, most hosts dream of winning it, and I see Mexico nowhere near winning a World Cup right now. Because although, yes, we beat Honduras, no disrespect to Honduras, we beat them at our home. We weren't able to beat them away. A team versus Germany is going to be able to beat us at home. A team like France is going to be able to beat us at home. A team, with hierarchy is going to be able to beat us at home. They don't care about that doesn't play a role in their books. Definitely. And I just think if this is a project for the World Cup, there's a lot of work to do. We need better players, better development, and we need a serious plan to win a World Cup, because I don't remember Mexico having a serious plan to win a World Cup since maybe the 90s, when we were able to win a Confederations Cup.
Yeah, I agree with that, because there's definitely a lot of work that still needs to be done. I mean, hopefully with the few official games that we have, we can, for the Mexican national team, we can kind of scramble around and finally get something to work. Looking towards 2026, I guess the end goal is really the 2030 World Cup. That's how the federation has painted it to be, for us to be competitive in the 2030 World Cup, which is unfortunate for Mexico fans. But I mean, so far, the few glimpses that we have, it's not looking all bad. At least we're not going to be a complete embarrassment at the World Cup. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Gabe, for hopping on. Thank you, Tomas, for hopping on as well. If you guys made it to this part of the video, make sure you subscribe, like. I will leave Clavado En Un Var and Gabe's information down in the box below. Make sure you guys subscribe, follow, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out. Thank you guys for hopping on as well.